Welcome to Blobtendo, a channel where we talk all things Nintendo, past, present and future. Today we're going to be tackling a fun concept, asymmetry in video games. So let's get started. Asymmetric game design is a principle which is cropping up ever more frequently in gaming today, with developers continuing to push themselves to create new and engrossing experiences. As a concept though, asymmetric design remains a fairly difficult one to nail down. It was the Wii U that brought the term into the mainstream, with Nintendo positioning the console as offering unique asymmetric opportunities for games. But what exactly do people mean when talking about asymmetry in gaming? It's clear that for a game to be asymmetric, multiple players must be able to interact with the game world at the same time, whether that be co-op or competitive, couch or online. There also needs to be something different about what those players or teams are doing. Generally, for a game to be asymmetric, at least one of the two following criteria must be met. Either the actions or abilities available to players, or the goals towards which players are working, must be different. These two criteria create a spectrum of asymmetry in game design. In entirely symmetric experiences, neither criteria are met. Then, there are partly asymmetric games, where players have either different abilities or must work towards a different goal. Finally, entirely asymmetric games give players both different abilities and in-game goals to contend with. We see symmetrical design in many competitive and cooperative games. Mario Kart's Bob-omb Blast gives players the same starting abilities to drive and collect bombs to throw at the enemy team. Everyone also shares the same goal, to hit and eliminate enemy team players. The stages in this mode even mirror the gameplay, often having many planes of symmetry. In any competitive game, where both teams share a single goal, this common goal is an example of a zero-sum game. A concept from the field of game theory. In a zero-sum game, for one player or team to succeed, the other must fail. In minute-to-minute gameplay terms, all players in these games are working towards the same ultimate goal. But when one team reaches their goal, like the elimination of the entire enemy team in Bob-omb Blast, the other team fails. This is a vital concept, explaining how a competitive game can offer a sense of tension, despite both teams pushing for the same ultimate goal. Symmetry is also commonplace in more simplistic cooperative experiences like Yoshi's Woolly World. Both players control Yoshis with identical movesets, moving through the same stage towards the same goalpost. In some partially asymmetric games, like Super Mario 3D World, Splatoon 2 and Super Smash Bros., players have different abilities depending upon the character or weapons they select. This choice in starting abilities often shapes the way players approach the game, with those using a roller in Splatoon 2 having a completely different experience to those opting for a splatter shot. But in these games, all players' ultimate goals remain the same: cover the most area with their team's ink in Splatoon 2's Turf War, reach the goalpost in Super Mario 3D World, or build up the damage percentage and send rival players flying off screen in Super Smash Bros. By incorporating asymmetry in abilities, developers can embed the core principle of choice into their games. Through giving players a variety of different abilities to choose from, players are provided a sense of control over their own experience, giving them more satisfaction with a win and different options to pick from to rebound from a loss. This has proved an immensely popular design trick, with this type of asymmetry being by far the most common in gaming today. There does though exist another means through which developers can shape partially asymmetric experiences, by giving players the same starting abilities but tasking them with an entirely different goal to one another. A perfect example of asymmetry driven by different player goals is Pikmin 3's underrated Bingo Battle mode. In this mode, both players begin the game with the same number of Pikmin, and the shared abilities to collect treasure, kill enemies, and grow more Pikmin. The asymmetry comes in the form of each player's allocated bingo card. The aim of the game is deceptively simple. Collect 4 of the items on your bingo card to complete a straight line to win. But because both players' bingo cards are unique, the different lines you need to complete to win are entirely different. Each player from the start has 10 possible ways to win. And there's more. Most items appear on both bingo cards. Some of these exist in abundance around the stage, while others only appear once. The strategy comes in deciding where your focus lies. Do you rush to get the rarer items that appear on both of your cards, hopefully winning the zero-sum game and severely limiting your opponent's ability to win? Do you gather all the items closest to your base before then deciding on the key items to collect? Or do you focus on quickly collecting more common items around the map to hopefully create numerous potential paths for victory. Because of these overlaps in the items both players need, and the competition to collect items first, each player's potential for victory is in constant flux, based directly on both your own and your opponent's actions as the game goes on. This mode encourages you to keep an eye on your opponent's progress. Knowing how they're doing or what they're after at any given moment can dramatically change your current objective, creating tense moments where you need to rush in and steal an item from under your opponent's nose, cutting off their chances of victory. This mode introduces us to an interesting concept. Through the collection of an item you don't need, but your opponent does, your actions directly influence the ability of your opponent to win, changing their goal in real time. This concept introduces us to one final, lesser used way developers can create asymmetry. In the games we've discussed so far, abilities and goals, whether they be the same or different, dictate player actions in only one direction. But by building in-game mechanics which allow players' actions to feed directly into their abilities or goals, a deeper level of player-directed asymmetry is established. A perfect example of this third type of gaming asymmetry is a Nintendo Switch co-op puzzler, Snipperclips. In this game, the actions available and ultimate goal of both players are identical. Players can rotate, cut into their partner to alter their shape, jump and restore their previous shape, and that's it. In Snipperclips, it's a player's shape which determines how they can physically interact with the world around them. When presented with some floating balloons to pop, it's clear that your existing shapes are of no use. So how can players use their rotating and cutting abilities to complete the task? One character needs to be a pointed shape, giving them the new ability to pop balloons. Some balloons are located out of reach, so the other character also needs a new ability to grab the balloon's handle. Then they can use their weight to pull the balloon within reach of their pin-shaped partner, who can pop the balloon. Snipperclips continually presents you with different problems and demands. Players use their starting abilities to shape each other in new ways, creating the new abilities required to complete each stage. Through this set of initial abilities given to the players, the developers have crafted asymmetry into the heart of the game, explaining how Snipperclips, which starts you off with the same abilities and goals, still provides such a refreshing asymmetric experience. Given all these interesting possibilities and examples, it begs the question, why do developers continue to make symmetrical games? The simple answer is that even mild asymmetry in game design brings with it a host of problems, most notably in the balance of competitive games. In traditional, symmetrically designed competitive games like Mario Kart's Bob-on Blast mode or real-world chess, all players start on a level playing field. Their abilities are identical, meaning there are fewer balancing issues to contend with. Balance is entirely dictated by player skill. In a game like Super Smash Bros. Though, the huge number of unique characters available to players gives developers a huge challenge to provide a balanced overall experience. It's why games like these so frequently see balance patches, and also why the communities of these games are often vocal about what they feel is an overpowered character or weapon. The developers are chasing a state of perfect imbalance, where at the start of a new game or round, each player can have an entirely different set of abilities or goals, but an equal chance of success, meaning it's player skill, and perhaps good fortune, which dictate the end result of matches. This state of balance within a complex system is known as asymmetric balance, and it's something developers spend thousands of hours trying to perfect. In cooperative experiences like Super Mario 3D World, developers have much freer reign to experiment with asymmetric design. Because the long-term goals of all players are shared, without being a zero-sum game, the abilities of characters may be different, but because they're all working together, at least in theory, it doesn't matter that Toad is faster, Luigi can jump higher, or Peach can float. It offers variety for players without introducing imbalance into the experience as it can in competitive games. Perhaps developers' only consideration is that all the different characters are varied enough to encourage experimentation and are all as much fun to play. Finally, there are completely asymmetric experiences, where the game provides players with a different set of abilities and different goals. It's this kind of asymmetric play that Nintendo had in mind when they designed the Wii U. Several of the minigames included in the launch title Nintendo Land provided this type of experience. Mario Chase had the gamepad player controlling Mario with an overhead view of the arena, while the remaining players controlled Toads, aiming to hunt down and grab Mario. Animal Crossing Sweet Day had the gamepad player controlling 2 town guards with a wider view of the play space on the gamepad, while other players ran around stealing sweets from trees. Perhaps the best of these Nintendo Land minigames though is Luigi's Ghost Mansion. Here, the gamepad player takes on the role of an invisible ghost tasked with sneaking up and grabbing the various Luigis. The Luigis, meanwhile, must wander the arena waving around their flashlight to hopefully catch the ghost in action. This game creates a great sense of tension between players, with the knowledge that a ghost could be lurking in the shadows around any corner. It's fascinating how quickly the hunter-hunted dynamic changes once the ghost is spotted. This game truly utilizes asymmetry to create something unique and hugely addictive. Even back on the N64, Nintendo were already experimenting with this kind of asymmetry in the Mario Party franchise, with 3 vs 1 minigames. But through the Wii U, they offered not just the opportunity for different goals and abilities, but also a different view of the world through the separate gamepad screen, allowing for these asymmetric elements to be pushed much further than ever before. It's clear that asymmetric game design is a complex tool which brings with it huge opportunities for unique gameplay, but also huge problems reaching a balanced experience for all players. When designing a game which allows multiple players to interact with the game world, one of the first considerations a developer must make is in deciding on the level of asymmetry they want in the experience, and whether to achieve this through a choice in starting states, goals, or through the ability of players to directly influence abilities or goals themselves. Through an understanding of asymmetry in games, we can appreciate better why co-op in a game like Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is more interesting than co-op in Yoshi's Woolly World, and why game modes like Pikmin 3's Bingo Battle feel so fresh and unique when compared to modes like Mario Kart's Bob on Blast. Asymmetry is absolutely not a requirement for a game to be good, but if you're looking for a way to make your game stand out among the crowd, building meaningful asymmetry into the experience is definitely a way to get people's attention. My pro tip would be to allow players to directly alter abilities and goals themselves, to really push beyond what most games are doing today. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for a follow-up to this video coming soon, where we delve more into Nintendo's past with asymmetry in gaming, and how they have continued to push asymmetry beyond a purely design concept. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel to be the first to see every new video. Share in the comments below your favourite asymmetric game and let us know how it crafted asymmetry into the experience.